Welcome to TXOGA Talks, where energy meets insight. The purpose of this podcast is to provide you with a candid conversation about our energy needs, our energy security, and your energy future. Texas oil and natural gas have made our nation the world's energy leader, constantly innovating and investing to fuel the economy, protect the environment, and power the world. This industry is fast-paced, high-tech, and essential to improving modern life. And we're here to talk about it. You're listening to TXOGA Talks, where energy meets insight. Welcome back to another episode of TXOGA Talks. Our whole purpose of TXOGA Talks is to really have a candid conversation about how oil and natural gas is literally fueling modern life today, but to also bring to forefront issues that are important to every Texan, no matter what walk of life you're in, no matter what you do for a living. We want to make certain that oil and gas is in the middle of that conversation, but the big items that are influencing the growth, the opportunities for prosperity for all Texans are things that we like to talk about as well. So today on this episode, we wanted to make certain that you're aware that the 48th governor of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, held his State of the State address February 2nd here in Austin, Texas. He actually held that address at Arnold Oil Company. I thought that was kind of cool, a company that produces and distributes things that are related to the oil and gas industry to customers all over the United States. He held it in the big hangar. There were about 800 of us in the room on a Sunday afternoon that was broadcast statewide. And he did a really good State of the State, and he listed 7 emergency items that he wanted the legislature to pay close attention to. Now, the reason that these are listed as emergency items is because the Texas Constitution prohibits the legislature from taking up bills before 60 days. Remember, we only have 140-day sessions. And so our government, our founding fathers were very distrustful, obviously, of government. They wanted to limit their powers. The Texas legislature constitutionally can only meet for 140 days every other year, but the governor does have the ability to call the legislature back into session for special sessions. And he also has the ability to declare emergency items. So as I mentioned, he's declared 7 items on the emergency item list. And I want to go through several of those with you today and just kind of give you a little background, a little history about those, maybe who some of the bill sponsors are, because these are issues that you're probably going to want to weigh in on. These are issues that affect everyone's life. And the first one of these issues is property tax relief. Governor Abbott was very concerned about the growth of the property tax burden that Texans have to carry. He understands, as do members of the House and Senate, that as your property value increases, even if your tax rate is held constant, you pay more in taxes. And that's why they've been working to drive down property taxes. Last legislative session, they provided significant property tax relief. And Governor Abbott specified that he wants to see at least $10 billion of the state's budget surplus to be provided for property tax relief. He wants to speed up tax rate compression in order to lower the school district's maintenance and operations tax rates. That provides relief to all taxpayers. He wants to eliminate local taxing authorities' loopholes by requiring 2/3 voter approval for all tax increases. Folks, that's a pretty big deal, a 2/3 voter approval for all tax increases. He wants to increase the business personal property tax exemption to $100,000 to support small businesses. And he wants to require all bond issues and tax rates elections to be held on the November ballot because most people participate more in the November elections than they do any other time. And then again, to have a 2/3 supermajority for those voters. And so these are some of the big issues that he's looking at on property tax relief. We don't know yet specifically who the bill sponsors will be for all of these. I know Senator Paul Bettencourt has already offered up Senate Bill 4, I believe, that deals with an increase in the homestead exemption. That was not mentioned in the governor's State of the State, but that will be a part of the conversation. The big thing, I think, is we encourage the legislature to continue to drive down the property tax rate. That means the state of Texas will be paying more and more of what's being given to our school districts in order to be able to fund our schools. The M&O rate is the maintenance and operations rate. Local schools still have the ability to set their own debt rate to build buildings and things of this nature. But this is a big issue. It's very important for the future of Texas in order to not only give relief to homeowners, but to make certain we continue a business climate in Texas that will attract jobs and attract capital to our state. Now, from the Texas Oil and Gas Association's perspective, when we look at tax policy, we think the best solution is to have broad-based tax relief that lowers and continuously lowers that rate that affects all property owners equally. And we're going to let legislators know we appreciate them paying attention to this issue, and we appreciate Governor Abbott making it an emergency item. And again, the emergency items are important because the legislature can only pass them off the floor. They can pass them, but they're subject to a point of order and some parliamentary issues. And so, but the Governor Abbott making this issue a priority enables the legislature to act a little quicker. So that's what we have on property tax relief, item number 1 on Governor Abbott's emergency item list. The next goal for Governor Abbott is investing in water infrastructure, and he's made this his number 2 priority. When I was first elected to the Texas House of Representatives, I remember then Speaker Pete Laney gave a speech after being nominated and voted on and selected as Speaker about the House members. He said 100 years ago in Texas, we were fighting over water and carrying guns. He paused and said, not much has changed. You know, the reality of it, we're still doing those things here in the Lone Star State. In Texas, you're either in the middle of a drought, you just came out of a drought, or you're headed into another drought, and it really doesn't matter what part of Texas you live in. Even in East Texas, my home area, where we typically have an abundance of water, we are consistently facing drought conditions, it seems. That's the weather patterns that have been around forever. And we know that as the state's population continues to grow, we've got about 30 million Texans today, we need more water resources. There are several groups out there that have been focused on water planning. State Senator Charles Perry has taken up the mantle on this issue. He's been working extremely hard. Governor Abbott mentioned that State Representative Cody Harris will help carry the legislation that he's making a priority in the House. And so we will have the opportunity to take a look at that. And the things that Governor Abbott is talking about doing is making a one-time large investment. He says the biggest investment in Texas history. He wants to dedicate about $1 billion a year for 10 years to tap into new water supplies and repair existing pipes to save billions of gallons of water each year. In fact, the state's budget was introduced. Both the House and Senate version of it has an initial $2.5 billion in the budget, but they want to invest in new water supply strategies that develop water resources like desalination and to move water from areas of abundance to areas of need. They're even having conversations with sources of water from out of state, how that can be brought into Texas. On our previous episode with Land Commissioner Dawn Buckingham, she mentioned that her agency has been focused on making water sources available, conducting pilot projects. And so you can see at the state level leadership, many are focused extensively on finding solutions to the water needs that are faced by all Texans. And I can tell you in the oil and gas industry, we know that we're focused on finding beneficial uses for produced water. And this is a very important priority, we believe. And in fact, Senate Bill 1145 by Senator Birdwell, House Bill 2584 by Representative Landgraf is looking to consolidate permitting for the beneficial use of produced water and having the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to have that authority. They're asking for some money and resources and personnel to establish this program at the TCEQ, because what this will do will provide for regulatory certainty. And it's so important that if you're going to invest literally, significant sums of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, you need to have that regulatory certainty that you can get this permitted. The Texas Oil and Gas Association, many of our member companies are partnering with the Produced Water Consortium. They're doing pilot programs on how to use this produced water for beneficial uses, and it will be in compliance with the Clean Water Act and be very safe for all of us. But creating these new water resources are very important. Governor Abbott has made that his number 2 priority in emergency items list. The next 3 items on Governor Abbott's emergency list, and asking the legislature to, and giving them the authority really to speed up their conversation, all kind of deals in the areas of education. The state's budget predominantly is spent on education today. We believe that is a priority. We are glad that the legislature is focused on these issues. And the next item is actually increasing teacher pay. We want to make certain our teachers are well compensated, that we are still attracting people to go into the field of education. And so we appreciate Governor Abbott looking at this. He's looking to increase teacher salaries through a direct appropriation and other compensation strategies. I think they're talking about $750 million in 2026 and 2027 to expand the teacher incentive allotment to bring more teachers into the merit pay program sooner and increasing merit pay overall amounts. He's talking about waiving fees for certification in high-need areas like special education and bilingual education. They want to help mitigate costs for districts that hire retired teachers and get those retired teachers back in the classroom. They're looking to invest in high-quality teacher preparation pathways, including teacher residencies, apprenticeships, and then a program called Grow Your Own Programs. There are many different elements here in looking to recruit more teachers into the profession and through high-quality pathways. And then finally, the last thing I might mention, they're looking at collecting data regarding teacher retention and recruitment, including classifications, grade levels, subject areas, duration, and other relevant data when they're looking at what's creating these vacancies in teaching positions. I'll tell you, folks, if you see a teacher, tell them thank you. They're doing a tremendous job. So many times today, teachers are not only asked to teach and educate our kids, they're sent to school, and kids are sent to school, and our teachers are expected to almost raise kids because they're not getting some of the instructions that they need at home. That's not the role that we want teachers to play. But teachers are very flexible, they're resilient, and they care about our children, because you couldn't be in that profession very long unless you did. And I think about my own career and how I was benefited by teachers, and so we appreciate teachers and look forward to increasing that teacher pay. The next item on education deals with career training. Obviously, the reason that we send our kids to school is not for recess and recreation, right? As much as it is to prepare them to take a place in the workforce so that they can live the American dream and grow to their full potential. Senator Schwartner, Representative Keith Bell, and Gary Gates were mentioned by Governor Abbott. He's focused on expanding high-demand career training programs by increasing funding for the Jobs and Education for Texans grant program. They've got pathways in technology, early college, high schools, dual credit, and other career education allotments that they're looking at. They want to provide career and technical education funding for students enrolled in Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps. That's very high priority that the governor mentioned. There are many other strategies that they're looking to ensure that students enter high school proficient in math and prepared to excel in career-aligned courses. I can tell you that in the oil and gas industry, the average salary in 2024 was about $128,000. Obviously, not everyone in the industry makes that, but you can easily exceed 6 figures for trained, skilled workers in the oil and gas industry. Technology is playing more and more a role in the productivity and in the safety in the oil and gas industry. And so having a skilled workforce and enabling them to provide for their families with good paying jobs is a priority. And so we're looking forward to this career and technical training. Another area that Governor Abbott focused on in educational reforms is in providing school choice. I think the goal here for him is to expand education savings accounts and provide families with school choice. Senator Brandon Creighton, Representative Buckley are going to be the two legislators working on that. In fact, Senator Creighton has already passed his bill. I believe it was Senate Bill 2 out of the Senate. And so it's headed over to the House, where the House Committee on Education can start taking that up. Basically, what it does is provide an education savings account with universal eligibility for all Texas school children. It appropriates about $1 billion for the initial program. It's entirely voluntarily for families and schools. The governor has stated that he wants to improve school choice opportunities by increasing funding for open enrollment charter school facilities, expanding virtual education options, and improving access to inter and intra-district transfer. And so, look, folks, there's a lot of different opinions about school choice. Obviously, the last Republican primary, there were races that were won and lost. Much of the conversation was about the position that legislators took on school choice. I know it attracted a lot of money to the campaign cycle, and we look forward to this conversation and how we can continue to make certain that education is the focus of what we do here in the Lone Star State. Those are the top items that Governor Abbott listed. There are a few more that I think you might be interested in, and I want to share with you. But before we get to them, let's take a quick break and hear from this episode's sponsor. Thanks to a partnership between TXOGA and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, now more than ever, it's easy for small businesses to provide affordable group health coverage for their employees through the TXOGA Healthcare Plan. With a TXOGA plan, members can choose the right healthcare plan and benefits for them, priced within their budget, with the physicians and providers they trust. TXOGA's healthcare plan is available to small businesses with between 2 and 50 total employees who are headquartered in Texas, members of TXOGA, and aligned to the Texas oil and natural gas industry. If your organization is not enrolled but looking for coverage, visit bcbstx.com/TXOGA. I'll say that again. Visit bcbstx.com/TXOGA to learn more. Visit today. Welcome back. We certainly appreciate our sponsor today. There are a couple of more emergency items that were listed by Governor Abbott during his State of the State speech. And there are some other issues that are going to have a big impact on all Texans. And so I want to just have a quick moment to talk about those as well. But the first of the last two, bail reform. Now, bail reform is not something that most of us sit around and talk about on a daily basis. But Governor Abbott brought them up because he wants to eliminate parole for criminals convicted of child trafficking and deny bail to criminals charged with capital murder and other violent crimes. Legislators like Senator Joan Huffman, like Representative Spiller, Representative David Spiller will be taking this up and be working with the legislature to implement those. The last emergency item that I wanted to call to your attention is Governor Abbott called to establish the Texas Cyber Command. Now, this will create the Texas Cyber Command, and the goal is to protect us against cyber threats. If you get on a computer today, you're probably as worried as I am when you see these scams that are designed to take advantage of you, to infiltrate your data systems, to get you to provide confidential information. He has tasked Senator Tan Parker and Representative Gio Capriglione to take a look at this. They're going to be probably headquartering the Cyber Command in San Antonio. They're going to leverage the expertise and resources of the University of Texas in San Antonio, and they're going to bring in state and local and federal partners. So be on the lookout on how this Texas Cyber Command can improve the quality of life that we have as individuals, but also our business quality of life here in the Lone Star State. If any of these emergency items that were listed by Governor Abbott are important to you, you can contact your state representative, contact your state senator, give them your thoughts about it. We encourage you to do so. Active participation by citizens is the only way to have a government that reflects your values, your views. And so being engaged is something that I think is very important, and I want to encourage you all to do that. Real quickly, before we wrap up today's episode, there are some other items that were mentioned that I think will be impactful to the quality of life as Texans. Governor Abbott continues to maintain his focus on adding more power to better fortify the Texas electricity grid. This is a priority of Governor Dan Patrick, Speaker Dustin Burrows as well. How they do that, there may be some differences of opinion, but we do know, and as we've mentioned in other episodes, they're talking about putting additional dollars in the Texas Energy Fund. That was a fund that was created by Texas voters through a constitutional amendment just this last voting cycle, and when constitutional amendments were taken up. And so that's going to be very important. We're talking about how large loads, data centers, artificial intelligence, crypto mining can come in and be a part of Texas. And look, we need to maintain that Texas is an open for business state. We want to welcome that investment. We want to welcome those jobs. But we also want to have a thoughtful conversation about how that new energy demand impacts our grid, how it impacts our transmission system, so that we have a certainty in the way that those new jobs and new businesses are coming online. That's very important. Another item that he mentioned that I've heard a lot about lately is a nuclear power renaissance in the United States. There are SMRs, small modular reactors, that are being discussed. Research is being done here in the Lone Star State. Abilene Christian University is taking a lead on salt molten reactors, I believe it is. We know that Texas A&M University is looking at using its RELLIS campus to develop nuclear power resources. And I'll tell you, in the oil and gas industry, we think that an all-of-the-above approach for energy solutions that make sense is something that we need to have a conversation about. We just don't think that the government needs to be picking winners and losers in that process. We know that oil and natural gas is going to continue to have an enormous role in our lives. It is indispensable if you think about all the products that we make. We recognize that our state and world population is going to continue to grow. And as we have discussed earlier, some people talk about energy transition. They really mean they want to get rid of oil and gas. That's impossible to do. That would cripple Texas. It would cripple our state and cripple families. If you want to get rid of oil and gas in Texas, that means you want to get rid of the funding for the State Highway Fund. It means you want to get rid of the funding for the Permanent School Fund. You want to get rid of the funding for the Permanent University Fund. And so what we like to talk about, rather than energy transition, is an energy addition or an energy expansion. And when you think about nuclear energy and other forms of energy that research is being conducted on, we say, let's have a good, candid, thoughtful conversation, make certain we're aware of the benefits as well as the risks that are related there. But let's move forward and let's grow our energy supply, and let's let oil and gas continue to fuel the modern economy that we live in today. Those are the topics for this edition of TXOGA Talks. We hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you will join us again. If you have ideas or thoughts that you want to hear more about, just give us a shout. Go to our website at texoga.org, and we'd love to hear from you. So with that, thank you for joining us for TXOGA Talks, where energy meets insight.
The views expressed on this podcast are not intended and should not be construed to be the views of any particular TXOGA member or company. The purpose of this podcast is to engage in candid conversations about energy needs, energy security, and the future of energy.